Throughout time, our cities have defined who we are. In building them, we have tried to impose order on the chaos around us, illuminating it with the captured brilliance of a billion stars. Will this hold true for tomorrow? It's hard to tell what the future holds, but there are some indications. We know our urban world is rapidly expanding. Over the next decade, for the first time, most of the world's people will live in cities. By the year 2000, there will be 23 cities with populations over 10 million people. They are called megacities. 18 of these cities will be in the developing world, in poorer countries that are unprepared to cope with urban demands. For those trying to make these cities work, it is a race against time and numbers. Will they succeed or fall further behind? Our urban population is growing by 1 million people each week, comprised largely of the world's poor who are lured to urban centers in search of a better life. They often find it in jobs and in opportunities for their children. Nowhere are these trends more evident than in the developing countries of Asia. Here, these cities seem hopelessly caught trying to catch up. Faced with overwhelming pollution, congestion, and people, will they ever? The city of Delhi in India rose on the ruins of ancient cities dating back 3,000 years. The city expanded over time, most dramatically with the construction of New Delhi in 1911, an imperial city for 70,000 people. Today, Delhi is a massive metropolis of 11 million, strained beyond capacity. For many, water, electricity, and sanitation services are simply not available. Compounded by poverty and unemployment, the lack of decent shelter and basic services has made life miserable for the urban poor.
Like 15 years ago, there was a tremendous resistance to anything urban. Urban was seen as an evil. Big cities were bad, associated with prostitution, with crime, with drugs. But people have begun to see that urbanization is desirable. It is an inevitable consequence of so many things happening within the country. It is an unstoppable phenomenon.
Today, Delhi is the third largest city of the country, and the rate at which it's growing, it will soon be the largest city in India. With nearly 11 million people today, it is expected that it will have about 18 million people by 2011.
400,000 people are coming to Delhi every year, and they want to settle in Delhi. And there is no space. There is no environmental carrying capacity. Delhi is a dying city now, and if it has not to be saved, it may be a dead city after a few years.
The place where we are sitting right now is a small slum settlement. We call it a jhuggi settlement. 25 years ago, we would have said, remove these jhuggies. There is no place for jhuggies in an urban settlement. Today, what we are talking about is that can we not improve these jhuggies and provide them with basic services? We know that these jhuggies are not going to go away.
So 87, when there was cholera epidemic in the cities and large part of these urban poor were affected, there were a few localities where the people were not affected. And they discovered that these were the localities where the urban basic service program was going on, and that they were provided with water supply, better sanitation. And that led the city government to realize that these slum communities require the basic services.
The way I began was by treating patients, but I soon got into helping them with public authorities to obtain deep bore water hand points, and also to get their roads paved, and for their drains to be properly installed, have a proper drainage system. And of course, I soon realized that community participation was the key to sustainable development, because the same child comes to you with diarrhea today, he comes to you tomorrow again with diarrhea. So you're not really doing anything for him unless he realizes what the reason is for his diarrhea. So as a result of all this, what has happened is that the overall profile of the whole colony has undergone a total change.
I think in communities where the non-government, where the NGOs are working in close collaboration with these community groups, we've seen kids going to school, we've seen better income opportunities.
It would seem to me that we are all learning that there's not much of a point in depending on the government. The Delhi's culture, because of the predominance of the government in Delhi, we all became very used to that government would do that. I think we are all now beginning to see the value of the enterprise of the individuals and enterprise of the communities, enterprise of the non-governmental organizations.
I think the message is right out there for us to see, that the way to manage the city is to involve the community, the businesses and the enterprises, and the government. I mean, it has to be a partnership of all of the stakeholders in the city.
Well, as an NGO on the front line, I would say that if there's plenty of commitment and dedication, then there's no end to what can be brought about in urban slums. A sea change can come about if people are really willing to work hand in hand with the community and with public authorities.
Unless the people in Delhi, they start reacting, and they start a people's movement from the grassroots, I think that nothing is going to change.
It's very difficult to sort of say in terms of whether one should be an optimist or one should be a pessimist about a city like Delhi. I belong to Delhi. I was born in Delhi, and I have tremendous hopes that Delhi would get over the problem of change of governments, the change of bureaucracies, change of administrative structures.
I think these small examples, whether it is ASHA, whether it is our own work in the slum communities, and we see that the poor, who are the most oppressed and most vulnerable, they have so much hope that it tells us, the planners and the policymakers, that we have to be as hopeful as these poor people are.
In Thailand, Bangkok is known as a city of angels. Shaped by an intricate network of canals or klongs, the city has grown rapidly over time. Today, Bangkok is home to more than 8 million people. the city has invested in new technology, like here with this computerized wastewater treatment plant. No such easy answer has been found for the city's greatest problem, traffic. 2 decades of economic growth have turned Bangkok into the gridlock capital of the world.
Well, Bangkok's at a rather critical point because when it was a low-wage economy and people were coming here because they could get manufacturing done very cheaply, it didn't matter very much that there was congestion in the city because after all, those people were only being paid a small amount of money in any case. Now, as it's making a transition to a service economy is only the time and education and skills of the people that are in the population. And so an hour lost in congestion is now an hour of productive work in banking or in advertising or in some other sector of the economy that you can't capture.
Bangkok has many problems. Among its problems, the public enemy number one is the traffic congestion that is well known. People are richer, they buy more cars, and we have a rate of car increase that's in the range of 200,000 cars a year now, pick up every year.
First of all, we have to accept that this is a fact of life. The economic role of the metropolitans is important for the country development. In fact, it's important for the country's survival.
We estimated that the loss due to the traffic quantifiable up to almost 40 billion baht a year.
People are willing to take up boat ride in smelly canal in order to save 1 hour a day in the morning and 1 hour again in the afternoon.
It's not terribly difficult to understand why they have congestion in the city. For one thing, they have an enormous imbalance in terms of where people work and where they live. If you fly over the city in the morning, what you see is that all the roads going into the city are packed with cars, a dead stop. All the roads going out of the city are empty, and the same is true in the reverse in the evenings. They've concluded that the city can't continue on the same course, and changing course means major infrastructure projects.
We need a proper rapid transit system to solve the traffic congestion in Bangkok. We need about 8 lines of rapid transit. And in comparison, in Tokyo, they are building the 12th line. In Paris, they are building the 15th line, yeah?
They have 4 or 5 kilometers of the columns in place today. It'll be up and running within 2 years. That's going to make a major difference in the city. In the short run, it means a few lanes of traffic that have to get taken out of use while you're constructing the transit system, but it's clearly worth a couple of years of inconvenience for long-term improvements in the way people can get around in the city.
Altogether, it would take a couple $100 billion to invest in the major project to solve the traffic problem. Government know exactly that they cannot absorb. They have no capacity in terms of financial for all of this project. So they invite a lot of private firms to join.
Bangkok administration has already invested in they call it area traffic control. We will have about 140 intersections online within 2 or 3 months' time, while another 200 odd intersections, combining total 400 intersections in the Bangkok, will be online within a year and a half.
And there are a series of other such efforts at work, and one of the things we're doing now is trying to combine all of these efforts into a single plan that also talks about how the land use pattern ought to be redirected in relationship to transit lines, sewer systems, new parks, and other kinds of facilities that get created. And it's that kind of a way of thinking about solving the traffic problem, which is that you solve traffic and development at the same time, that's going to have to take hold in the city if they're ever going to be able to do anything about their traffic congestion.
The condition we are in It's all man-made. Yeah, anything man-made, if given the political will, if given the desire to do it, then we are not such a poor country. This is the problem we have created ourselves. Human problem can always be solved by human.